Good morning to everyone. I think it's time for us to settle down and take your seats. We are about to take off. So, Excellencies and dear guests, we have a very intense, massive day ahead of us with a lot of stuff and many program numbers and a very tight schedule as well, but which is nice in a way. It keeps us awake and fully energized. But I have to run a rather tight ship, so in my role as moderator, I promise to try to keep track of time and the schedule. But a very tight day ahead, as I promised and warned, depending on how you want to see it. So, in the role of moderator today, very nice to be here. We have a very important day, a very timely stuff ahead of us today. Very interesting and inspiring to share it all with you. My background is in journalism, so I've been, of course, following these kind of topics over the years as well. And hey, it's the first Nordic Development Bank event ever. I think we have to give a big round of applause for that reason. Congratulations. So great to be here as well. And Hanna Holmen, this venue is fantastic compared to so many other basic congress or seminar events. It's very nice to see you all here. And very nice for me to be back here in Hanna Holmen as well. We have both a physical audience here, then we have an audience online, so welcome to the online audience as well, of course. All our speakers and guests from both the Nordic countries and people who have traveled here much further away. Great that you're all here with us and contribute to the success of the event. Hey, let's have a quick look at the schedule on the screen here. If you can see, it's fairly small, but anyway. First coffee break, 11:35, which is one of the highlights of the day, of course, because we have a lot to chew on before that. Then program continues, and then we'll have lunch at 12:45 and another coffee break at 15:10, and try to end the day here at around 5, but then you have your reception in the lounge area after that, which is very nice as well to sort of like cool off a bit. And the first event, until the first coffee break, this will be recorded. So I'll ask all the speakers not to move outside, which I now did. I'm not in the picture now. So not move outside these margins. So this will be the other limit. We have a reporter here, David J. Cord, who sat there a while ago. He's still there. Welcome. And a photographer, Tero Ahonen. Know him well over the years as well. Great to have you both here working for us during the event. And they might approach the participants, guests and speakers during the event for a quote or a photo. If you do not wish to appear in photos, please let our staff know. And as I mentioned, the coffee breaks, 2 of them during the day. So the coffee is set up right outside our doors, which you certainly saw before entering the room as well. I hope you had a nice cup of coffee. Since it's a rather small coffee corner, so please take your cup and move a bit further away if you want to have a space and a bit sort of room for yourself, in order for this not to be, the space not to be too crammed or jammed. And in the reception area, you can find standing tables and then, as I said, more room for networking. And there's water here at the back of the room, and you can also find pens and notepads there. And the official hashtags you can see on the screen: NCD 2025, Nordic Climate Action, and Climate Finance. And today we have a remarkable program, as I said, bringing us together our Nordic actors in the nexus of climate and development. And let's try to keep the sessions as interactive as possible, even if we have a very sort of tight schedule here. So we'll have, given the timetable, if we have time, let's try to achieve it so that we have a couple of minutes after each session for your comments and questions. We have Maira and Anne. Can raise your hands, please. Maira and Anne with microphones in the room. So if you want to comment or ask a question, so please raise your hand. if we could have sort of like 1 or 2 questions after each speaker. But let's see what happens. We have a stage sort of timer clock down here for the speakers to help them keep track of time. It's very small now, the digits, but when you start speaking, the numbers will grow magically. And you'll see it will count downwards how much time you have left. And of course, the last part of the day will include group discussions. So let me encourage you all to utilize also the coffee breaks and lunch break to keep the conversation going and sharing your knowledge and thoughts, because I'm sure we have a lot of takeaways and a lot of things to chew on after the day and during the day. So now, are we all ready? A lot of information, a lot of talk, but you feel sort of you have settled. We can get going. We're in the air already, so which is good. So as an inspiration, we want to screen a short documentary from one of the NDF co-financed projects, West Africa Coastal Areas. It's a beautiful video. The documentary is titled Between Land and Ocean, and it will take you to the beautiful coastal landscapes of Benin, where communities are confronting the very real challenges of coastal erosion and flooding caused by climate change. And this video shows how climate resilience is being built together with locals and partners. We hope this video will inspire you in the discussions today for more climate action in the most vulnerable regions of the world. The video is commissioned by NDF and produced by Karawa Studio and directed by Sean Patin. Let's see.
Je viens d'un petit village nommé Avlo. Ici, les femmes se lèvent très tôt pour travailler. Mais depuis quelques années, notre village est menacé par quelque chose de plus grand que nous. Nous sommes en terre et océan. Depuis chez moi, on peut voir la bouche du roi, là où le fleuve Mono va se jeter dans l'océan. Ce qui nous fait peur aujourd'hui, c'est que l'océan grignote nos terres petit à petit, comme s'il voulait tout reprendre. Et quand la terre disparaît, c'est tout notre village qui tremble.
Esirodoa edena funami. Sirodo dena funamia. Chuchugwane siadoa. Edo kaka nehweo ahoyopata de violena do. Mia mega hunto chamilena do. Enyina funde de denemi. Funkwekwe gande. Enona miaji. De viole do amila klo ikonji. Hunto chamega hoa ola ikonji. Wagakia minonen me kakaka. Esia no wapua. Esia epuna.
Pour comprendre et voir de mes propres yeux pourquoi l'océan vient marcher sur nos terres, j'ai décidé de sortir de mon village pour voir ce qui se passe autour de nous. J'ai pu découvrir le programme Waka au Bénin, financé par le Fonds Nordique de Développement, la Banque mondiale et le Fonds pour l'environnement mondial, qui protègent de la progression de l'érosion, la nature, les racines de notre culture et ceux qui y vivent.
Sur le plan de la biodiversité, comme vous le voyez tout autour, nous nous situons dans une forêt de mangrove. Et dans le sud et dans le delta du Mono, cet écosystème est un écosystème très important en termes de régulation des effets des changements climatiques, d'une part, mais également de régulation des effets de l'érosion côtière. Cette zone est une zone éminemment de très grande biodiversité et il est important hein, de continuer à travailler pour que cette zone continue d'abriter cette biodiversité-là, aussi bien pour nous que pour les générations futures.
Je pense que mon village est magique. L'océan avec son bleu magnifique et la lagune avec ses mangroves. C'est comme si l'océan, la terre ferme et la lagune se tenaient la main. Mais depuis un moment, l'océan est en colère et le changement climatique nous menace. Et les premiers à souffrir sont ceux qui vivent des trésors dont elles regorgent.
Safwa, ile kakam koda, fi keke didi so yida, ifi apo jole gba fi keke ba. Jobe nyawe, apo ben ko baba ele blenu, fi keke sa yevunu ti le fi keke mu. Apo ben ko baba, eba kaka yevunu ti mu yevunu ti keke, jegbe ko fun keke wa, e kaka horo jo keke mu, horo keke mu jo. Tonyo le wasa wu ke ngboye, bemi baba. Tonyo ko mi ato kuwa, do ko to chi mi revient aussi.
Je pensais que tout resterait pareil. Le sol de chez moi, nos terres, les champs des pêcheurs. J'ai compris que tout ça peut disparaître du jour au lendemain si nous n'agissons pas maintenant.
Avant les travaux, cette lagune côtière que nous avons ici était confrontée à une forte érosion. Et c'est normal qu'on observe une érosion sur cette partie de la lagune côtière. Parce que dans tout le monde entier, lorsque vous avez un plan d'eau qui présente une concavité dans ce sens, elle est souvent soumise à une forte érosion.
Ici à Gbekon, des gens sont venus avec des casques et des gilets de chantier. Ils sont arrivés avec des machines pour réparer cette portion de la lagune endommagée.
Mesurer un peu l'impact de ces travaux par rapport à la communauté qui est sauvée, qui est l'arrondissement d'Avlon, qui est pratiquement sur la langue de terre qui continue de l'autre côté. Dans le cas de ces travaux qui consistent à faire la stabilisation de la baie sud du fleuve Mono à Gbekon, 3 objectifs étaient visés. Comme premier objectif, la durabilité. Deuxième objectif, le respect de l'environnement. Et troisième objectif, l'efficience. C'est en respect de ces 3 objectifs que nous avons retenu les ouvrages qui ont été installés.
Ici, on n'abandonne pas. Chaque mangrove qu'on plante est une défense. Chaque digue est un bouclier qui empêche l'océan de tout nous prendre. Chaque femme qu'on aide est une famille qu'on sauve. Et pour moi, c'est ça garder espoir.
Donc, ole grand fobe funwa, ameke ne vava le odowa, akpe no kaka, no le miato gbo be wenu. Edowa minkpo, kaka va je miato dia minkpo dowa. Egbe afifi ami va le kpo dowa, ameke ne so dowa va funu so va le oa, akpe no kaka.
Le compte à rebours aujourd'hui s'éloigne de nous. Nous gardons espoir parce que l'avenir se dessine. Je suis
Beautiful documentary and valuable messages, as you saw and heard. Let's move onwards and our following duo. Let's invite them here on stage. Satu Santala, Managing Director, Nordic Development Fund, and Gunvor Kronman, CEO, Hanna Holmen Cultural Center. The stage is yours.
Thank you, Peter, and good morning, Gunvor.
Good morning, Satu.
So great to be here on stage with you. We go back a long time, and when we learned to know each other in the beginning, we were young, energetic activists trying to change the world for the better.
Well, I think I'm still an activist.
And still energetic.
Yes, so are you.
Yeah. But somehow, maybe thinking back to those days, it felt almost like easier to believe in a better world. Now we have a lot of dark clouds, including climate change. But somehow I still remain convinced that the humankind can change the world for the better.
Well, that's true. It was, for me, very interesting to see this film because 30 years ago, that area that I visited very often as delegate for International Red Cross based in Abidjan, it made it very real to me what we're talking about, climate change, because we did not have those challenges 30 years ago in that same area. But I think, I think it's very appropriate to quote our late President Ahtisaari here, that I do believe what human have started, human can also end. So that's why I'm still an activist.
Absolutely. Yeah, and we're here today to discuss climate. We're especially today focused on mobilizing climate finance for those regions who need it the most and who have least access to finance. And for the Nordic Development Fund, it's a natural theme to be gathering colleagues around because that's exactly what we do. We've co-financed climate and development projects together with public and private partners. And we focus on supporting innovative early stage initiatives that have the potential to scale. But why was Hanna Holmen interested in co-organizing this with us?
I think we have a couple of reasons. First of all, societal resilience is at the core of Hanna Holmen's work. And of course, the green transition, climate change, combating climate change is one very important aspect of that. But apart from that, I think I also have a little bit of a personal stake in this because since 9 years, I serve as the global chair for an organization called Plan International, which is focused on girls mainly. And in Plan, we so much see the effect on especially the most vulnerable groups in society, and that's where we come to girls. So I think the film actually, they didn't say it, but they showed it, that the women and the girls are very much affected by the consequences of climate change. And when you have to look for food for a longer time and to go further, safety becomes a big issue. When you don't have food and you have to spend more time doing the chores at home, looking for food, trying to mitigate the consequences of the floods, as we saw here, you don't have time to go to school. You have less money. You have more child marriage, and so on and so on. So I think climate change is really the biggest intergenerational challenge that we have. And that's why I think also it's very timely for us to be part of this.
That's so well put. We are organizing a Nordic event today, and for us, Nordic cooperation comes so naturally, and we have a lot of it happening. On the other hand, we felt that, especially in the area of climate finance and climate action, we felt that we could do better, and we were really looking for those ideas, and that's why we've gathered all of you here to really brainstorm together and especially think of practical ways how we could do more together.
So we live a new golden era for Nordic cooperation. And of course, the reasons for that are very sad. It's the geopolitics and Russia, I would say, as if we want to spell it out. And also actually now maybe what is somehow a decoupling from the US. So we need to get our own act together and anything. And we can see in this house that is full of Nordic cooperation all the time in all societal fields. 2 days we've been spending on civil defense and security and military cooperation here. Tomorrow and the day after, it will be the universities coming closer together. So we see a lot of things happening outside the sort of more formal Nordic cooperation. I think also this gathering is a very important part of that, and I think and hope that you take the opportunity to actually create some lasting bonds and come to concrete solutions as well. Because it's always important to think about the next step.
Exactly. And with this, I really welcome all of you, and I thank Hanna Holmen for collaboration, also Minister of Foreign Affairs of Finland, Convergence, IMCA, and the World Climate Foundation, who are our partners, and then just look forward to a very active day with all of you. Thank you.
Satu and Gunvor, thank you very much for your inspiring and warm welcoming. We have 4 overall themes that will structure our day today. Let's start with our first theme, accelerating Nordic ambition to mobilize climate action. And we start this with a message from the Minister for Nordic Cooperation and Education, Minister of Education and Culture, Anders Adlercreutz. Unfortunately, Minister Adlercreutz could not be with us here live today, but he sent us a video message, and it's on the importance of Nordic cooperation in impactful climate action. Let's listen to those thoughts.
Excellencies, dear esteemed colleagues and partners, it's a great honor to welcome you all to this year's Nordic Climate Dialogues. Regrettably, I'm not able to attend in person, but instead we'll address you via this video message. I want to begin by expressing my sincere gratitude to our excellent hosts and to each and every one of you, leaders, experts, and change makers, for attending the conference today. The climate crisis is one of the most urgent and complex challenges of our time. I'm speaking here today in the capacity of Minister for Nordic Cooperation. This year, Finland and Åland are co-hosting the presidency of the Nordic Council of Ministers. As you may know, the Nordic Council of Ministers is a forum for the official cooperation between the Nordic governments. Its premise is to find common Nordic solutions in areas where the Nordic countries can gain better results by cooperating than by acting alone. A special focus for our presidency is the promotion of societal security. The goal is to make the Nordic region more resilient and more comprehensively and broadly prepared for all kinds of civil crises, including the climate and biodiversity crisis. Climate change and biodiversity loss act as amplifiers to global risks and security challenges. Weather-related risks and extreme events not only lead to direct loss of life, but their disruptions can have severe consequences on global value chains and trade. During Finland's presidency, we continue to address climate change, biodiversity loss, and environmental pollution. We need international cooperation and global partnerships to tackle the cross-border environmental and climate challenges we are now facing. The Nordic countries' efforts are bearing fruit, and we are making our mark on the implementation of ambitious environmental and climate agreements. Esteemed participants, we meet at a time when the geopolitical landscape is shifting, and with it, the operating environment for climate and development action. The sustained undermining of the UN Charter and the rule-based international system, the ongoing large-scale attempt of invasion, or the other armed conflicts, economic volatility, and deepening inequality are testing the resilience of global cooperation. All of this is taking place when we should focus our efforts on combating climate change. Yes, these challenges also underscore the importance of unity, dialogue, and shared responsibility. In this context, the Nordic countries have a unique role to play. Our tradition of collaboration, rooted in trust, transparency, and a forward-looking approach, has enabled us to pioneer ambitious climate initiatives. As we are facing unprecedented challenges, we must collaborate globally and let the diverse voices contribute. Only then the strongest solutions emerge. That is why gatherings like this matter. Dialogue is not a luxury, it's a necessity. Delegates and partners. This year marks the 10th anniversary of the Paris Climate Agreement, a milestone that reminds us both of how far we've come and how far we still need to go. The Nordic countries remain firmly committed to the goals of the Paris Agreement and the Sustainable Development Goals. We are proud to contribute not only through our national policies, but through strong Nordic institutions and global partnerships. One such institution is the Nordic Development Fund, based here in Helsinki. Through the NDF, the Nordic countries have demonstrated how targeted climate finance can deliver real impact. Let me share two examples. First, the Energy and Environment Partnership Africa, or EEP Africa. Originally created by Finland, this initiative now includes 4 Nordic countries among its financiers. NDF plays a dual role as a funder and as a fund manager. EEP Africa supports early-stage clean energy projects, technologies and business models across 17 countries in southern and eastern Africa. It combines financing with technical support, investment facilitation and knowledge sharing. Second, the Systematic Observations Financing Facility, or SOFF. This UN fund was co-created by the World Meteorological Organization, United Nations Development Programme and the UN Environment Programme to close critical climate and weather data gaps in countries with the most severe shortfalls. NDF is SOFF's anchor donor, a role that helped attract other financiers, including Finland, Norway and Iceland. The Nordic meteorological institutions are also contributing expertise and capacity building. And this year, NDF co-financed the development of the SOFF Impact Bond, a pioneering climate finance instrument designed to secure additional funding and enhance sustainability. These examples show how Nordic leadership in climate finance is not just about funding, it's about convening, catalyzing and co-investing. It's about building partnerships that deliver lasting change. But we must go further. The Nordic region has many strengths to build on. Strong democratic institutions and inclusive, resilient societies. A deep commitment to invest in education, innovation and green technologies. Our transparent and accountable governance and low hierarchies reduce bottlenecks and foster agility and collaboration. These strengths are not just assets, they are tools. Tools we must use to scale up and accelerate our climate ambition and to collaborate globally in building resilience and sustainable futures. So today, I invite you, all of you, to use this event as a platform to forge new connections, to challenge assumptions, and to look for tangible dialogue and results for the benefit of current and future generations. Let us ask, how can we work together more effectively? How can we align our efforts to maximize global impact? How can we ensure that our climate finance reaches those who need it most? Together, we can deliver on the promise of the Paris Agreement and advance the Sustainable Development Goals. Thank you, and I wish you all a productive and inspiring dialogue.
And productive and inspiring dialogue, that's what we are here for, and I'm sure we'll have much of that today. You also heard the word meteorology there, and let's go in that direction now. Our first actual speaker of the day is a globally renowned expert in the fields of climate change, disaster management and meteorology. During his career for over 3 decades, he has played a key role in the development of climate change, disaster prevention and international cooperation, which is so much needed. Let's welcome Director General Finnish Meteorological Institute, Petteri Taalas. Welcome.
Countries have perhaps one of the most challenging climates worldwide. The agricultural conditions are poor and we have this hard winter, which is a special feature for our countries. And there are 2 consequences of this. First of all, we have a good spirit of cooperation. There's no time for debates or struggles, but we have to join our forces to survive the winter and so forth. And on the other hand, we have been able to create the best meteorological services in the world, and that's also a consequence of this poor climate that we are facing. I used to be the Secretary General of WMO, and I was looking this issue from the global perspective, and now I'm supposed to tell you in 8 minutes what we know about the global climate and how important and the support of our countries is for the world. First of all, we know that we have broken again records in the main greenhouse gas concentrations. This is an example from our station in Finnish Lapland, where we broke again records in carbon dioxide and methane concentrations, and this is happening worldwide. We are measuring the same concentrations more or less everywhere in the world. And we know that the economic losses related to weather extremes have been growing. These statistics until 2019, and this negative trend still continues, and the economic losses related to storms and flooding events especially have been growing fairly dramatically. And last year we broke the first time this 1.5 degrees limit, and which is the low limit of Paris Agreement, and we expect that next decade, in the 2030s, we will be more permanently above 1.5 degrees limit, and it's a question whether that's still a target that we could reach. And in our countries, we have seen higher warming than the global average. In Finland, we have seen double warming as compared to the global average. We have already exceeded 3 degrees warming, and in Spitsbergen area, for example, they have seen 4 times the global average warming, which is related to this melting of snow and ice in our region. And if we go to and if you look at the rainfall amounts, we have seen also an increase of rainfall in our part of the world, and in Finland, for example, we have observed 30% increase of rainfall during the winter months of the year. Globally, we have seen a doubling of the sea level rise. It used to be about 2 millimeters per year 20 years ago, and recently we have seen numbers close to 5 millimeters per year. And there's a growing component coming from the melting of main glaciers, especially Greenland and the Antarctic glacier. And there's also a component coming from the thermal expansion of the warmer seawater. And unfortunately, this thing we can no more stop, because we have such a high concentration of carbon dioxide in the air that the sea level rise may continue even for the coming thousands of years. And glaciers are very important as a source of fresh water, and we have seen boost in the melting of glaciers, and the estimation is that most of the mountain glaciers will disappear by the end of this century, but these big glaciers in Greenland and Antarctica will still remain, and that's happening also in our part of the world at the moment. And these glaciers, they're a very important source of fresh water. In this graph, all these light blue colors indicate what is the fraction of fresh water in big rivers having their origin from glaciers, and the dark blue indicates what is the fraction coming as rainfall. And for example, if you go to this Asian part of the world, you can see that even larger fraction of the river water is having their origin from the glaciers, and that's the case also for both Americas and to a certain degree also in Europe, a little bit less than the global situation. And besides challenges with water, we are changing the rainfall patterns, we are changing the evaporation schemes, and this melting of glaciers scheme. We have also a challenge related to population growth. So the demand of water is growing, and especially Africa, Middle East, and some parts of Asia are most challenging areas for that. And for example, in Africa, in many countries, the basis of economy is agriculture, and that's also the basis of employment. The World Economic Forum estimates every year which are the biggest risks for the global economy, and if you look at this 10 years scale, the extreme weather events, they are number 1 risk, then biodiversity loss, and number 3 is this overall impacts of climate change. This is not only a matter of nice climate or comfortable climate, but it's also an issue of global economy. And where we are heading, these colors indicate the temperature variations until now, and where we are heading at the moment. And the first message from here is that there's no return back to a milder climate of last century. We are anyhow going to live in conditions where we have more heat waves, more flooding problems, and more drought problems, and more most intense tropical storms. And if we are successful, we could reach the Paris numbers. Low is 2 degrees, very low is 1.5 degrees, and this intermediate is where we are heading at the moment, 2.5 to 3 degrees warming. No more to very high, which was the scenario still 10 years ago. So we have started acting. And in the lower panel, you can see what's going to happen to the soil moisture, which is very much driving the agricultural conditions. And all these brownish colors indicate drier soil, and greenish colors indicate wetter soil. And most likely we will reach something between 2 to 3 degrees. And you can see lots of brownish color in Mediterranean region, in Southern Africa, in both Americas, Eastern Asia, and also Oceania. So it's a net, there will be negative impact on soil moisture. And this is having an impact on our agriculture. And you can see various species, maize, wheat, rice, and so forth. And all these red colors here indicate the loss of yield, and the bluish colors indicate enhanced yield. And globally, we will, as a net, we will lose capacity to feed the growing population of our planet, and that's to me one of the biggest threats related to climate change. There are only few areas like certain Asian areas and our part of the world where we can expect to see some positive changes in this respect. And then when it comes to human health, there's this combined effect of higher temperatures and higher humidity. We have more humidity in the air because of climate change, because of evaporation from the ocean. And that's why we are going to see wider areas where this combined high temperature, high humidity is going to affect the health of human beings and ability of those people to work. And especially the low latitudes are going to be more affected, but the area is going to be wider, the more warming we will see. And then finally, what we can do. So besides mitigating climate change, which is of course essential, we have to also adapt to climate change. And Ban Ki-moon was leading a panel on climate adaptation. I was one of the members of his panel, and there it was demonstrated that the highest cost-benefit ratio may be reached by investing in the early warning services. And that's why Secretary General Guterres gave me a mandate to prepare an action plan how to improve the early warning services worldwide. And from WMO's perspective, we were having two components. One was to improve the basic observing systems, and we are grateful for Nordic Development Fund that you were the first donor behind supporting the improvement of the weather observing systems. If you don't have proper observing systems, your forecast results are automatically poor. If you put junk in your forecast models, you get junk out, and we have major gaps in African countries, in island states, and some other parts of the world. And there's a need to invest about $500 million for that, and we are grateful for NDF and also for Nordic countries and also the Adaptation Fund for your support. We have started the work, but more money is needed in the future. And then we have to enhance the early warning service capabilities of the countries by improving the early warning system business, and that's why we are now proceeding. And there's another program called CRUISE, which is devoted for that. And WMO is cooperating with also other players, UNDP, ITU, and UNDRR, and Red Croissant in this field. And this is an example of our service range, and these meteorological services can provide lots of services for various sectors which are economically viable, and also they are really related to public safety and also human human health and even matter of life and death. And in our case, we provide lots of services for transport sector, for emergency management authorities, for various businesses. Agriculture, for example, is very important component for less developed countries, and of course for media. And with artificial intelligence, we can create even better services and also impact-based services for various customers. And you have to invest in the basic observing systems. This is an example of our observing system, and you have to invest also in the IT systems, how to run these forecast models and how to deliver the products for various users and customers. And that's also needed as part of the early warnings for all program. And in Finland, we are lucky that we have been quite active in this field, and we are perhaps one of the most active players here. This has been one of the niche areas of our development aid in Finland from the ministry side, but we have also been cooperating with World Bank, European Commission, and various other donors behind that. And at the moment, we are also supporting many countries in Africa, in island states, Caribbean, and also there's a big program for Ukraine, and there's a need for reconstruction of the services there and to support them in their potential membership of European Commission one day. So please continue supporting these activities in the future. That's all from my side, and I promise to leave some minutes for the questions. So I don't know how successful I was there.
We have a tight timetable. I guess we have to leave questions for later today,
Okay.
but let's see. Hopefully we get more time for that. But thank you very much. Never in the history of human endeavor has so much stuff been put into such a small space. So it would have been great to listen very much more to you. But hey, we have to move on. Our next speaker is a seasonal economist and with acclaimed recognition on Africa's development issues. Clave Gatete is the 10th Executive Secretary of the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa. He has held several ministerial portfolios in Rwanda, including finance and infrastructure, served as governor of the National Bank and as ambassador to the United Nations, UK, Ireland, and Iceland. And we're privileged to get this very important African perspective on these things we are talking about today as well. So please welcome Mr. Clave Gatete.
Yeah, thank you very much. Managing Director, Nordic Development Fund, CEO, Han Horamen, Cultural Center, Director General, Finnish Meteorological Institute, and we thank you very much for the presentation that you have made. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we meet at a time of profound global disruptions. As we speak, the world economy is still grappling with the aftershocks of the COVID-19 pandemic. High indebtedness, high debt burdens are forcing many countries to choose between servicing loans, and investing in critical sectors such as health, education, and infrastructure. At the same time, geopolitical tensions and conflicts are destabilizing global security. Furthermore, trade distortions and rising protectionism are fragmenting supply chains and undermining trust in multilateral cooperation. And energy and food price volatility are also compounding inflationary pressures. And all this is unfolding against the backdrop of the climate crisis, the defining existential challenge of our time, which is straining institutions, displacing populations, and reversing all the development gains. Excellencies, nowhere are these converging crises more deeply felt than in Africa. Though the continent contributes less than 4% of the global greenhouse gas emissions, it is the most climate vulnerable. Climate change already costs Africa 5% of the GDP each year. And in fact, in countries like Mozambique, recurrent cyclones push the toll as high as 15% of GDP per year. Farmers face unpredictable rains, pastoralists lose grazing lands, coastal dwellers confront storm surges and fragile infrastructure collapse under floods and heat waves. As a result, African governments already burdened by huge debt are pushed to divert scarce resources from long-term development to emergency recovery. How can we speak of sustainable development when millions are forced to rebuild after every crisis instead of building for the future? Thankfully, Excellencies, Africa is not merely a victim of climate change. It is also a bastion of solutions. The African Union's Climate Change and Resilient Development Strategy, the Nairobi and Addis Ababa Climate Declarations, and initiatives like the Great Green Wall and Ethiopia's Green Legacy show Africa's determination. At the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, we are supporting this resolve by strengthening domestic resource mobilization and developing capital markets. Alongside this, we are advancing carbon pricing initiatives in the Congo Basin, the Sahel, and the island states, and promoting innovative instruments such as green and blue bonds, sustainability-linked bonds, climate and nature swaps, and blended finance. We are also turning climate science into action through practical tools that guide farmers, policymakers, and investors. Our modeling work, from crop suitability and the climate agriculture trade nexus to the impacts of cereals and cash crops, helps countries decide what to plant, how to allocate resources, and where to prioritize adaptation investments. These measures are aligned with the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, which is building regional value chains in critical minerals, agriculture, and green infrastructure, which are vital sectors that can anchor Africa's resilience and transformation. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, kindly allow me to recall the Sevilla commitment adopted last July, which provides a roadmap for action at the scale this decade demands. It underscores the urgency of climate finance. Indeed, the new collective quantified goal of 1.5 trillion US dollars per year by 2030 must be anchored in grants, not loans, and accompanied by a solution on the debt treatment. The G20 Common Framework, understandably, is far from being sufficient. Africa cannot build resilience while shackled by unsustainable debt. If the world can mobilize trillions in response to financial crises and pandemics, can it not do the same for the greatest challenge of our time, the climate change? This commitment also highlights the need for stronger multilateral development banks, more accessible climate funds, and innovative financing instruments, from debt for climate swaps to climate resilient debt clauses and technology transfer. At the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, we host the Secretariat for Sustainable Debt Coalition, which was launched at the COP27 precisely to advance such innovations to ease debt burdens and scale resilience. And Excellencies, this is where Nordic partnership is indispensable. For decades, your contributions have led in science, renewable energy, and sustainable development. In this vein, I wish to propose that the leadership must now be scaled up in three priority areas. First, Nordic countries should champion reform of the global financial architecture. By advocating for predictable, grant-based climate finance, debt relief, and innovative financing, you can help free fiscal space for Africa's adaptation and green growth. Second, your countries should strengthen partnerships in science, data, and climate intelligence. Unfortunately, Africa produces only 3% of the global climate research, leaving policymakers at a disadvantage. By scaling up joint Nordic Africa investments in observation systems, funding collaborative research, and empowering African scientists, women, and youth, we can close the knowledge gap and generate locally grounded solutions. Third, Nordic countries can bring their pioneering innovations in renewable energy, sustainable cities, and circular economy models into African context. Applied strategically, these innovations can accelerate regional value chains in critical minerals, agriculture, and green infrastructure, turning the Africa Continental Free Trade Area into a driver of tangible prosperity. Together, these three areas form a coherent pathway to transform Africa's climate challenge into opportunity while contributing to a more stable, just, and sustainable global future. As I conclude, let me reiterate that we cannot afford incremental progress when storms are stronger, droughts are longer, and costs are higher. But I am confident that with the Nordic solidarity and ambition, we can together transform resilience from a matter of survival into a pathway for shared prosperity and also ensure a safer planet for all. I thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gatete, for your valuable words there. Okay, let's see, let's ask Jenny now. Have we got time for a question or two? 1 minute? Okay, let's take at least one question. So we get that started. The first one is from here at the front, Mayra, we have, it's like in auctions, the lady with the blonde hair.
Thank you so much.
Introduction, please, if you introduce yourself as well.
It's on?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So my name is Ulrika Modén and I'm Secretary General of the Swedish Red Cross. And thank you so much for laying out these ideas on how to actually nurture broad partnerships also with Nordic actors. And we would definitely like to be one of them. But I was wondering, do you believe that the NDCs can also be developed as investment plans, that they can have this dual function in a different way than they've had traditionally?
Thank you very much. Actually, I think Mr. Gatete can use this.
Sorry, can you repeat your question? If I don't want to make sure that I don't. Yes.
They can be more of investment plans with bankable projects, with what you laid out. They can be combined to be both the promise, but also the plan for investments.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you so much. What you are saying is, let me just answer it with an illustration. I think some 10 years, no, about 14 years ago, in the country Rwanda, where I was a minister, we established the Green Fund with the help of the DFID and our own government resources. The reason we did that, and that was the time when we were eliminating the plastic bags, which are the things which we had under our control, which did not need much other than changing the rules and making sure that actually we force the change of behavior. And when we did that, we established now the Green Fund. The reason for the Green Fund was mainly to see how we can invest in green investments. And it was supposed to act as a blended finance, kind of. So the government borrowed money from the World Bank. Usually you borrow on concessional resources, but on climate. It was not used in the budget. It was put in a development bank. And then together with the Green Fund, we looked at the whole host of areas where we could invest together, including the national determined contributions. And we said, okay, people can borrow from the bank, but then once you blend it with the resources that you had borrowed, which are long-term in nature, 40 years, with 10 years grace period at 0.75%. And we said, if we blend it with those resources together with the resources from the Green Fund, then we can now do so much. And that fund has ever been increasing, actually, in the amount. And this is helping to systematically invest in all the green projects. Because initially, the way we used to do it was more of an ad hoc, just investing in one project, and we talk much about it, and then invest in another one, but we didn't have a formula. But this one gave us a way of sustainably investing in areas such as mini hydros that we are doing, different areas of energy, different areas of, including, the areas of investing in the nature and other areas. So this really was more systematic than the way we used to do it. And I think when you say this one as an asset, it makes more sense. This is an investment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gatete.
They can ask as many questions if they want, if they have any.
I think we have to move on now, but it was great to get the first question. Thank you very
you so
much.
much.
We are in the end.
Thank
Hope
you.
happy with the answer. Thank you very much. Hey, then our first panel discussion brings together experts to explore how Nordic partnerships are advancing climate solutions and inspiring and shaping international efforts. In these challenging times, of course, the Nordic countries stand out as pioneers in forging collaborative paths toward a sustainable future and consistently demonstrate how cross-border cooperation can amplify positive impacts on a global scale. So please welcome our moderator, Sato Santala. Come back on stage, you can say.
Thank you, Peter. And can I ask our panelists to also come on stage? So we have as our three panelists, Gunn-Jorid Roseth, who is the Director General of the Norwegian Agency for Development Cooperation, better known as NORAD. Before joining NORAD in August of this year, Gunn-Jorid has made an impressive career in the Norwegian Foreign Service, including as Deputy Director General for the Multilateral Department. We also have Måns Nilsson, who's the Executive Director at the Stockholm Environment Institute. SEI is an international non-profit research institute that tackles climate, environment, and sustainable development challenges. And Måns also has a renowned career as an accomplished scholar in policy sciences related to sustainable development. And our third panelist is Gjermund Grinsbu, who is Chief Advisor on Climate Change at KLP, which is Norway's largest pension fund. And Gjermund is responsible for the climate investment strategy at KLP, and he also serves on the board of NORSIF, which is the Norwegian Forum for Responsible and Sustainable Investment. So
let's get the order straight as well for the stream audience. So I think Gjermund, actually, your place would be here, Gunn-Jorid in the middle, and Måns there. Thank you very much.
Important to keep the house in order.
Yes.
Thanks, Peter. And as you see, we have a diverse panel today, and we're really going to get a few different perspectives to our questions around climate finance today. And let me start with you, Måns. And can you talk to us a little bit about how research can promote climate action, and can you share some practical examples how applied science has been translated to concrete action in the context of SEI?
Yeah, thank you very much for this opportunity to talk to you all. SEI is a research institute. Our legacy has been to provide science and policy, scientific evidence and scientific research to support policy making in its different forms, from agenda setting to more direct decision support, capacity building, planning. In our new strategy, which runs from now 25 to 29, we put down much more effort on actually supporting practical action on the ground under the motto accelerating implementation, that we don't have time to fret anymore about long-term targets and abstract goals 2050, 2070, but really we need to get action going now. So we're trying to orient our scientific work in this direction. One example is, for example, we've been supporting the NDCs process in many countries over the last 5 years. And also part of NDCs now is also the short-lived climate pollutants like methane and black carbon, and developing the national mitigation plans using our tools in a number of countries around the world. And about 2 years ago, the countries came to the CCAC, as it's called, the Climate and Clean Air Coalition, said, we have plans now it's time to act, no more planning. So we have geared towards that, and now we're working with the World Bank to develop investment projects according to the criteria in our assessments. So what projects should we invest in first, and how do we make bankable projects out of the plans that have been produced already. Another example I would like to mention is our recent work with the UNDP Climate Hub and Sustainable Energy Hub. where we are working with them on incorporating like findings from our sustainable finance research on how to get private investment into sustainable energy projects in something called the De-risking Renewable Energy Investment Program. So this work has resulted in a kind of a new concept of a quantitative risk and cost of capital analysis, together with a participatory co-creation process for government representatives and private sector actors at the country level to help the countries get a grasp on how to de-risk and how to bring down the cost of capital for these kinds of investments. And this becomes a strong, without the result of the analysis, becomes a strongly owned and strongly understood kind of concept that we hope can drive investment in the countries. Next year, early next year, we will implement this. The first project will be in Zambia in January, and we hope that we can work together with UNDP to implement this in many countries throughout next years and onwards. So those are two examples of what's going on. Thanks.
Thank you. Very interesting examples. Then over to you, Gunjurid. So NORAD is, of course, known for ambitious climate programs. What are some of your innovative tools and approaches in this area, including on mobilizing private finance?
Well, thank you. And maybe just before diving into the concrete examples, I think it was in the speakers this morning when Petteri said in one of your folder on the screen also that what we see 1,000 years from now, and I think it sort of struck me a little bit that what we are discussing today, actions we've made so far, good or bad, but also the things we are discussing, somebody 1,000 years from now can benefit from, hopefully, by us all doing better. So I think it was sort of a wise perspective to have that with us. And I think also, Mr. Gatete, when you were talking about what we can do also together to reform the large engines like the World Bank, like the UN. So that is something that we also do together with partners on the policy side in MFA in the different Nordic countries. I think that's also very important because that will guide the actual efforts that we do together here. No, I think what we can do, a great advantage that we have as a donor is, of course, that we can be highly risk tolerant. So I think this can be of value to businesses who face a high real or perceived risk levels to investing in development economies. So last year, for example, we launched a guarantee scheme for renewable projects that aim to mobilize renewable energy investments. And of course, such guarantee schemes are a tried and tested way of generating multiple investments and a recommended approach by the OECD. And this guarantee scheme is open to investments in both low and middle income countries. Of course, financial institutions have an important role to play in influencing and boosting sustainability in the private sector operations. And I think sometimes lack of transparency around subcontractors, financing and ownership structures complicates the work of improving sustainability through value change. So one example is that we have, through our Norway's International Climate and Forest Initiative, NORAD works with a number of partners to promote deforestation-free supply chains and financial markets. I think we also see that startups and entrepreneurs are familiar with local contexts, opportunities, and business climates, but they are critical to development solutions from the ground up. So we work with incubators as NORAD and accelerators who have demonstrated the ability to find and develop talented entrepreneurs. So we try to then work through NORAD with our support to organizations and entrepreneurs who can support building private sector solutions in blue economy, food security, renewables, climate adaptation, and reduced marine litter in sub-Saharan Africa. I think we also see, maybe coming back to the de-risking, that in Africa, agricultural small and medium enterprises, the agri-SMEs, are Africa's largest employer and economic engine and a key to fighting hunger. But yet we see 3 out of 4 agri-CMEs get caught in the gap between microfinance and bank loans, leaving a large gap in unmet demand for financing. So in 2023, we launched a financing for agriculture, small and medium enterprises in Africa, FASA for short, to unlock agribusiness growth and build a robust ecosystem. The FASA fund could ultimately support 1,000 agri-SMEs and create and maintain over 70,000 jobs. Yeah, and I think we're also working with other concrete programs to mainstream SDG investments in the global finance system, and I'll be happy to answer questions here or throughout the day. Thank you. Just some examples.
Thank you. Great examples there. And then over to you, Gjermund. Norwegian pension funds are among the global leaders in the movement towards sustainable finance. Can you share some example from KLP's work, and where do you see the best potential for institutional investors in engagement in climate finance to mobilize at scale?
Absolutely. As you say, KLP is a pension fund. We're a private pension fund on behalf of Norwegian municipalities and public health sector companies. That means that our mandate is to minimize pension costs over time. And what we realize is that limiting global warming is one of the most beneficial measures for pension savers. So that really makes a big rationale for KLP to set ambitious climate strategy. And I think the best example from that climate strategy is the investments that KLP do in emerging markets and frontier markets and developing markets, which we have done for some time now in renewables. It started off a decade ago, and at that time KLP decided to step out and divest from coal. At the same time, we realized that this has a limited contribution to real climate change. We need energy. So at the same time, we put that money into a separate mandate on development finance, including renewables and inclusive finance. We started off with a collaboration with Norfund, which is the Norwegian Development Finance institution. And together, over the past decade, we have been investing in the largest solar park in Rwanda, the largest, at that time at least, wind park in Kenya. At that time, the world's largest solar park in Egypt. And last month, we invested together with Norfund in a company called, or a platform for renewable investments called Anthem, which is now planning to build 11 gigawatts and build a capacity for the alternative of a fossil-based.
Thank you. Interesting examples. Then let's have your thoughts around the Nordic thinking, Nordic collaboration. We already had excellent concrete proposals from Mr. Gatete earlier. Let's hear a little bit how you see this. And let's go in the same order. We can start with Mons again. In your view, how can we deepen collaboration between Nordic stakeholders, and what concrete forms could that take?
Yeah, thank you. We're happy now to have a very good Nordic collaboration. In a sense, the Institute is actually working very closely with NORAD. And NORAD's energy section is one of the tracks. So we're developing the evidence base, you could say, on NORAD's clean energy portfolio in sub-Saharan Africa and how it's working, building on the research that we do in our sustainable finance for sustainable development program. And I want to give a shout out to Daniel Duma. If you can raise your hand and make yourself known if you want to talk more about this work. Our key expert is here with us today to talk about that. So this is like very nice to be able to work across the Nordics and pool our resources and sort of to bring the best the evidence base and the research into the operations and the actions for development agencies such as NORAD, which is one of the most important one in this space. And like as a research institute, we've been working with like-minded organizations across both Finland and Norway, like here in Finland with Psyke and Sitra, in Norway like Cicero and the Fridtjof Nansen Institute. But I would say for us as research, the funding structures are a bit weak. There is Nordic energy research and other Nordic constructions, but it's very small compared to like national or European scale opportunity space for our kind of organization. So I think I would ask for more Nordic opportunity, Nordic calls and financing instruments for research and science policy work. And I think like at the level of agencies more broadly, of course today, there are many organizations that are anchored in Nordic collaboration perspective, including our gracious host, of course. But I think still politically the Nordic countries are underselling ourselves that it's a fact that development partners in lower and middle income countries, they really love to work with Nordic partners, but we are very small if we go at it alone. I mean, at least together, the 5 countries together are at least like a small, mid-sized kind of country in the global perspective. But I think we can have a development offer which punches well above our weight because of the Nordic way of doing things and sort of the priorities that we have. So I hope that this, the troubling geopolitical situation and international relations, the silver lining on that, I think for me is also that the Nordic coalition can become stronger over time. Thank you.
Thank you. Gunjorid, what about your thoughts in this?
Thank you, and I'm taking note of my homework from months on Nordic calls, so thank you for that. No, I think maybe to state the obvious also, but at this day and age, we must also take that sort of political and moral leadership to just repeat and be very vocal that climate financing is very important. We have to use our voice in the multilateral platforms, in the boardrooms, to make sure that this is still on the agenda. It's a bit strange to have to say it, but I think that's one thing that we can do jointly also, has a joint Nordic voice. I think I will also pick up on Måns's point that it's not about financing alone. That's not what's going to solve this crisis, but when we are working together as Nordic partners, we can disseminate knowledge, we can make sure that the scientific groups or arenas, they meet each other, we can create that platform, and then we can communicate also results and activities together. And I think we can then encourage each other to come up with good solutions, joint solutions. For example, working with Nordic partners, we can help businesses get the investment ready. We have one example with the Energy and Environment Partnership for Africa, which is, as you know, implemented by NDF and provides an early stage grant and catalytic financing to innovative clean energy projects. I think we can also, as I alluded to, use shared platforms to exchange our own experience and lessons so that we can replicate that what works and learn from what doesn't. I think you also talked about the importance of value of data as a strategic asset. And we can do a better job of communicating our values and our goals to the private sector. And we can, from our side, one key value proposition is our flexible and patient risk-tolerant capital that can be used to bridge riskier and newer business models to markets where there is considerable development impact potential. I think that we know that our Nordic business communities have a lot to offer in terms of technical innovation, trade, relationship, and foreign direct investments that we can tap into. But then we must also share our experience, our knowledge, and the evidence that we spend a lot of time investing in. So to be open. So I think we are, as they said at the General Assembly this year, the theme was "We are better together," and I think that also applies to us in the Nordic context. So I think I agree with Måns that we should join forces and sort of make our voice stronger together. Thank you.
Thanks. That's easy to agree with. What about you, Jermund? How would you look at this?
Well, from a pension fund and investor perspective, I would say that there is a huge potential for collaboration on a Nordic basis in making a contribution to closing the gap on investments in renewables and related infrastructure like grids and batteries in emerging and developing economies. So, as I think most of you know, there is a large gap between the current investment levels and the 6 doubling that is needed according to the IEA and others. These investments really match with the liabilities of pension funds. So there is a potential win-win situation here with long-term investments, long-term cash flows matching with the benefit, the defined liabilities of pension funds. Unfortunately, KLP is still one of the few institutional investors, also in Norway, also in the Nordics, that actually make these investments. And although we see a Nordic collaboration, we've collaborated with Blended Finance, with Nordfund. We invested together with NDF in the Climate Investor 1 and Climate Investor 2. We also invest together with Copenhagen Infrastructure Partners, one of the largest institutional or infrastructure investors in the world. But there is still a lack of the private pension capital flowing into these funds and potential investments. And we can, our experience is that these investments have provided us diversification benefits, steady cash flows, and also good returns the past decade.
That's really encouraging to hear, and I think we need to think how we get this message also to other institutional investors. Peter, would you like to? We could now have a few comments or questions. Would you like to come and do that? Perfect.
On, yes. And I'll position myself here between Satu and Jermund, if it's okay for you. There's space for me. Yeah, questions. And thank you for this thought-inspiring and provoking panel. We're going to be a bit of sort of peaceful time here after this hectic morning, so it's nice to have a bit more spacious time here. And a lot of time for questions as well. So let's start with comments, questions. Anyone out there? Grace. And if you can introduce yourself as well. A little bit. I think the microphone picks up my.
Right. Good morning. My name is Pasi Renne, and I'm very thankful to NDF for having us here. So I'm posing a question on behalf of NEFCO and as the chairperson of NICA, which is a Nordic working group working on innovative sort of climate approaches. And the Paris Agreement's Article 6 establishes a new sort of a global rule-based carbon market system. And it was finally sort of operationalized in Baku last year and at the end of last year. So how do you see sort of Article 6, this kind of sort of a carbon market collaboration featuring as part of your portfolios in the future, as the Article 6 is anticipated sort of not only to reduce the sort of a global cost of climate action by half according to World Bank and OECD estimations, but it's also then expected to sort of comprise a lion's share of the future sort of quantified climate finance as the entire package of it. So how do you see Article 6 playing a part as part of your work?
The question for the full trio, Yes.
Full trio, but and then if you allow, I would like to sort of ask a second part, which is more sort of a general. Now that Petter, you
We have time. Yes, yes. Hold that thought. Yes.
I would also love to extend that to Petteri, if I may. So what is the one thing that you sort of were expecting or hoping from COP30 this year to sort of arise?
Related to Article 6 and the creation of a compliance carbon market, let's call it that. So from again from KLP as a investor, it's definitely interesting if you could get a global market for carbon allowances, because from a risk perspective, this would really give us a hedging opportunity. We have investments in high emitting sectors on one side. They face big transition risk going forwards. We try to handle that by today investing more in the leaders and divesting from laggards. But having a compliant carbon market would really give us an upside of the transition. From an investment perspective, very interesting. At the same time, now we are sort of in a I don't know what you call it, a limbo situation, because we have the voluntary market. We're waiting for the compliance market. So now it's very uncertain times. So now none of them are really functioning ideally. So that's we are curious, but still waiting for this to materialize.
A limbo is never good.
No, thank you. And I think and maybe I also have to rely on the colleagues who are working more on the policy side of this, because for us to sort of develop a portfolio on this, it also, yeah, maybe coming back a little bit to your limbo description to see how we can then tap into this, and we sort of have to have more maybe of a political framework to feed in with our evidence and an expert level analysis of this. So yeah, I think.
So Mambo would be better than limbo always. Once.
Yeah, thanks. Unfortunately, we don't have a portfolio, so I'm going to skip that question. But let's talk about your other question, perhaps, what we hope for COP30. And it was a couple of years ago that I stopped hoping when it came to COP negotiations. It feels like many of the agreed statements and formulations are then reopened next year again, and step back, step forward. But I think in general terms, I hope for the insulation of the United States, that there is the maintenance of the global agenda with firm commitments driven from other regions of the world. And I think with that kind of solid base, the nitty-gritty details, I think, is not so much affecting private or other investors as we think. I mean, the detailed COP outcomes, I'm not sure if that matters a whole lot for the financial markets or for industries. So I think we need to maintain the momentum and maintain the commitments. I'm not hoping for any major advances given how the situation looks, but if there is a sense of isolation of the US, I think that is what is actually needed in terms, of course, only of climate change policy.
Thank you, Mons. And Petteri.
Yes. First of all, this climate mitigation and also adaptation, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So we are not supposed to solve all the problems in one COP meeting, but this is something which has to happen in the coming decades. And what is fairly positive is that the business world worldwide is moving in the right direction, has started moving, and also most of the governments are moving. I was a couple of weeks ago spending 1 week in China, and I had a meeting with the chief negotiator Liu Zhenmin, my former colleague from the UN. And what's happening in China is also fairly encouraging. They have already reached their peak emissions, and and most likely they will be able to join this carbon neutrality by 2050 club. They have been careful not to make commitments, and we know that the ball is very much in the hands of BRICS type of countries. The G7 countries have already made commitments, and of course there are in democratic countries there are ups and downs like we have seen in USA, but in general we are also moving in the right direction. So personally I haven't lost the hope that we could still reach 2 degrees, and one single COP doesn't change the big picture. And we should keep in mind that the money is not coming from the governments for the mitigation. The governments are setting the frames for that, but the money is coming from business corporations and also from consumers. And as long as these communities are moving, we may be successful and we may still reach the 2 degrees target. Thanks.
Pasi, I'm sorry, so many people wanted to ask. I think the next one was it there? Next, yes.
Hi, my name is Jens Nielsen. I'm from the World Climate Foundation. So I want to ask Gjermund, well, first, a big cadeau for KLP. You are one of the front-running pension funds in the Nordics in terms of investing in emerging and developing markets. So my question would be, what could the Nordic countries do even more for you to invest even more in emerging and developing markets?
Thank you. That's a quick round. I want to have more questions.
It's a big question and a very central question, and to some extent, it's KLP is not the one to answer that on behalf of other pension funds. But I think we have a success story already. So at least the investments and the partners that KLP have had during the past decade has been very good and fruitful. And I think pension funds are very conservative institutions for good reason. Pensioners need to know that they get their pensions. But I think building on the track record that we have from the past decade is something that I think that's really how it works. I mean, do you have a track record is always the question that you get, and we're building a track record. So I think that's a very good start for allocating more pension capital into the space.
Yes, maybe the question was for Gjermund, but no, I think as governments, what we can do, also of course as NORAD, we are an agency providing quality development assistance. So within the instructions and the budgets line we have to provide that evidence and make sure that our political superiors also
Sorry.
Get the information on how we can use our catalytic financing to make sure that we have a good project, good stories, good results. And I think also it's not new. We have a lot of good work done already and we have evidence, but it's not the largest part of a Norwegian development assistance budget either. So I think our job is to showcase the examples, and then it's up to the decision makers also how much of these funds that we can have to be helping in de-risking and other things. And I think then also to be generous about sharing the space to communicate also the stories that non-government actors do in platforms like this or others that we can inform. It's not necessarily, and to be generous and to showcase the stories that we do jointly together, public, private, and hopefully then parliamentarians in Nordic countries who ask questions and at the end of the day vote and decide the amount and direction of the development budgets also feel more familiar and have a good knowledge base about this. So I think that's part of our job as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, I want to have one more question was from there. We might have to leave it as a comment, but let's see how much time we have. It was somewhere almost back row or something. Yeah.
Yes, my name is Björn Amland from Development Today. I think what we have heard here today is that there is a lively cooperation between companies, institutions, research institutions, and so on in the Nordic countries? Do you see a need for a political initiative to strengthen Nordic organizations and institutions in this field, or is this cooperation between institutions and companies good enough to get the job done?
I'll ask you like this: who would you like to answer?
Well, I think it could be good to have comments from anyone.
A quick round, please.
I think collaboration between existing institutions should always first be sort of driven as far as possible before creating new costly institutions. So yeah, collaboration between existing is my vote.
Thank you.
And I think to follow up, I think because I feel a very strong joint political push from the Nordic governments in this, and I think we have good existing platforms, but maybe we as sort of knowledge-based development agencies, I liked your very concrete input on joint Nordic calls. We can be a bit pragmatic and concrete to see how we can improve within the toolbox that we have already. Yeah, because I think then there's a lot of space to do even more there. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
I don't know if I have that much to add, but I think scaling on existing platforms is the way to do it. Yeah.
I think you said you don't know if you have so much to add because you saw the clock. Thank you very much for covering. Satu, I know you want to finish with a few points.
Yes. First of all, I want to really warmly thank our panelists and our audience. I think this was a really good conversation to get our thinking going. And in particular, we are here really today to think about what we could do. How can we advance Nordic ways of doing things even more? And I feel a bit bad because actually everyone who we've invited could really be on one of our panels or could be one of our speakers. We have such an excellent audience that we thought that we would also like to invite you to think and discuss during the day. And then we'll gather those thoughts during the day, and especially in our last session to kind of make some conclusions. So please, in any event, the breaks and the discussions in the corridors tend to be the best. So really take advantage of those. And we wanted to pose you 3 questions for you to discuss during the day. First of all, on how can different types of stakeholders collaborate more together? And is there a demand or an interest for such collaboration between the Nordics? Secondly, what does Nordic climate action mean to you? And thirdly, in what ways would you like to collaborate with the Nordic Development Fund, which is one of the Nordic institutions in this space, or the one? And is there something further that you would like to propose? Those who are here physically present can discuss this during the day. And our online audience, please use the QR code on your screen to send us thoughts in this space. With this, really wanted to thank you for this session, and over to you, Beth.
So 2 things. Don't yet, I'll just say it. Big hand to our distinguished panel and great questions from the audience. Thank you very much. And at the same time, I want to thank our online audience because the stream is ending now and we'll continue purely physically down here. So let's give it a few seconds for them to cut the stream and then we move on. Thank you very much.